Just two questions. One, you mentioned that this was politically instigated. Do you have names that you're working with? Do you have the names that you think are the sponsors? Number two, for the families that were affected, those who lost millions of shillings, are you going to compensate them? Is the government going to do something to help them come back again? Okay.
Yes, my name is Daniel Musara from Kenya News Alert. We've seen the families that lost their loved ones, cried to the government at City Mortuary. What are you going to do about it? Because they're saying that they don't trust the government anymore for justice.
Good afternoon, my name is Ian Kitani from K24. I have two questions. One, we saw situations, for example, in Eldoret where police officers allegedly were escorting goons who were attacking those who were protesting. And number two, just to emphasize on what was said, you mentioned coup plotters that were, those were exact words. Will you probably give us names? Thank you.
Yes, we're working with names, and I am sure you also know their names. We know that it is not my responsibility as a cabinet secretary to investigate any individual specifically. But of course, from the reports we get, you can see clearly who are the coup plotters. You can also see it from the pattern of the areas where the protests were violent and intense, that there was an outright misuse of people who would have been, so to speak, political supporters, turning them against the rest of the citizens to make sure that you reign chaos and terror. Particularly of great concern is in Nyeri, where the Member of Parliament of Mathira was specifically targeted, his home, and the Member of Parliament of Kieni. And this pattern has continued from last year, and now there has been a specific pattern of the coup plotters targeting certain political leaders whom they think they are not giving them political support. That is why you saw Kiunjuru's home, Kimani Ichung'wah is being targeted, and the Molo Member of Parliament. Just to, terrorists, how they operate is that they instill fear. And these are political terrorists. They would like to instill fear on members of parliament who don't support their political ideology so that they can get a safe passage. The DCI does not investigate politics. He will only deal with the criminals. And those criminals who will be caught, they invaded a police station, the shops, they provided financial support to chaos. Criminals paid them, ferried them, the matatus that were used to ferry them, some of the vehicles that were operating pretending to be ambulances, but they were ferrying goons. All of them are going to be ensured that they have been mobbed up, and all those people be arrested and charged. And as I said, it is up to now the next stage, the DPP and the judiciary, to take the next stage. And as a country, it is not my duty to announce to you the names. You will see them when they appear before court, so that then the DCI can have an ample time to carry out its responsibility. But all those characters we know. This is not, let me say this, the problem we were facing yesterday is not about justice. It's not even justice about families who lost their loved ones. It's not even about genuine expression of views by citizens. It was just purely politics. And yesterday's game was political. But for people who are impatient to wait for the next elections, they think there is something they can do between now and next elections to get this administration out of office. They also think that because they are facing serious political upheavals, that orchestrating violence will help them negotiate a better passage from their current political challenges. So we know them, and Kenyans know them, and I have no doubt they will start running around the country with their propaganda, the usual, or we are being targeted, our cousins are being targeted. It will not take long before you will see them making the noise. But let me tell them, they are not above the law. They are not above the law. And I have said this before. We will make sure that this country is protected. And we cannot be intimidated. And I just want to repeat that. And then whose properties are destroyed and looted through such occasions. And we do not have budgetary allocation as a government to do so. And if we were to be providing budget that will compensate people all the time when their properties are looted at this point in time, then the best law would have been those who are protest organizers should be bearing greatest responsibility. That is why you heard me say it's important to have a law that will clearly define who are the organizers of the protest, where do they want to, what is the purpose of this protest, when do they want to have the protest, where will they start the protest, which route will it follow, and where will it end. And should there be anything that is, should these protesters loot people's properties, what will happen? It is also important to organize public protests. Police commander was properly briefed. The protesters followed defined route in Mombasa. They started at 10, they finished at 12. There was a small group that wanted to cause chaos at some point, but it wasn't a serious one, and the protest was closed. That is an example of how public protest should be done, not the kind of mayhem and chaos that we witnessed in the city. And therefore, unfortunately, the government of Kenya does not have a budgetary allocation from Parliament that takes care of any form of compensation. That does not mean that the government of Kenya is not feeling the pain of the businesses. When I went to OTC today and the bus station, and all of us as a team when we went there, you saw, I met a lady who lost her husband 7 months ago, and she has loans, and she has this business she's running was worth about the capital required is about 200,000. Now, as a government, you will say yes, we have no budget to do so, but all of us as well-wishers, other business people, even from government, even as leaders, we have what can you do to help them in such a difficult situation? I have also been asked by Daniel that there are people who do not trust the justice system. Unfortunately, this is our country, and that's why when we tell all the protesters that let's make protests peaceful, let's protect our nation, there is no other country. The same people who will say today, we don't trust our justice system, are the same people whom when we say we want to regulate protests, they will say, no, you cannot regulate our right. It's important that protests are regulated. And also important for us to trust our institutions. The DCI and the police here have done a fantastic job to unearth so many cases in the country. We have the capacity and the human resource to make sure that today some will be arrested over the weekend, but we want to make sure that all those people who are prosecuted, there is enough evidence, and we want to request the judiciary to work with us and work with the police, National Police Service, to ensure that all those characters are brought to justice. On the question of some people being escorted by the police who are goons, we will be happy to receive also reports from citizens to record statements so that if there will be such incidences where there was infraction on any part of government officer, of course it will be investigated in the right manner. But by and large, yesterday was a great success in terms of the police. Some of them are brought from Nyeri, some are brought from Kirinyaga. Most of these goons were left in town. Some were left in Thika Road. And so as they were going back home, they caused immense havoc last night in Thika town, looting people's business on their way. So, and the police were really overwhelmed because now they are doing some of this work in darkness, especially some who, on the onset of this darkness, they came back to the roads to try to rob motorists and other citizens. It has not been easy when such number of goons and criminals and thieves and thugs and robbers are concentrated in one area, collected by these politicians. It's not easy for the police officers to be able to maintain law and order. I think that we have given you sufficient, unless any last question, preferably from a lady. Yeah, there's a lady on the left there.
Good afternoon, Honorable CS.
Good afternoon.
My question would be from the Communications Authority about media houses broadcasting live protests. That was followed by a High Court order from Judge Chata Mwita, who said that is unconstitutional per se. So what is your take about the live broadcast of protests and that directive by CA and that coming from the courts?
Last one. Let me give the gentleman. He was really struggling to catch my eye.
My name is Fred Kavoni from the Standard Video. My question is simple. What is your message to the people who lost their loved ones during yesterday? Thank you.
Because you are the last one, let me just give you. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Mike from TV47. I just have one question. Perhaps how many police officers were injured yesterday? And do you think there is a ploy to attack police officers during these protests? Since Kenyans have been furious about police officers in the recent past, are they safe during these protests?
Thank you. Thank you very much. First, let me, on the communication, on the live broadcasting, there is nothing wrong with live broadcast per se, because we also, our media enjoys freedom. We have the freedom of media in this country. The biggest problem with live broadcasting, having watched a number of them, media stations yesterday, is the idea that media becomes the center of mobilization for some of these protesters. In fact, most of the media houses are working very hard during the onset of protest, telling people, oh yeah, wengine wamekuja, sasa tayari ndio hawa. They interviewing people, they still tell them, what do you tell those who are still at home? You see, they are participating, directly in mobilizing people to come. But what was even of greater concern to me is some of the media stations whose their job was directing the protesters. And they are saying, oh, now they are in Thika Road. As soon as they converge with the ones in Kiambu Road, the possibility is that they will pass through museum and State House will be very near. You see, that is really very irresponsible journalism. Of course, the gentleman from Standard knows that Standard now has stopped being a newspaper. The headlines for the last 2 months or 3 months have always been about security and insulting people without resorting at one instance to ask for feedback from anybody, not even any person. Now they have these interesting headlines that pass judgment on the Inspector General of Police, the Minister, the President. Of course, the President lives on their headline. I understand the desire and the tough economic times for newspapers to sell. But that cannot happen at the expense of our country. And this is really of great concern to me, that the media houses were expected to have self-regulation. Apart from, at the end of the day, even the media houses are doing business in Kenya. If this country bans, just because you wanted to sell newspapers, you wanted to do media engagement, it's a loss to everybody. And more importantly, let me say this, that it is unfortunate that political actors are relying on media. It's not becoming independent enough to give both sides of the story. For example, you will hear that yesterday's report is reported as the protesters have arrived somewhere and they are looting, and you are still saying the protesters have looted shops, the protesters have done this, and you can see they are criminals, meaning that the characterization of also the criminals, we are not taking the greatest responsibility as citizens. You've watched international media, except of course when they are reporting from Africa and Nairobi especially, that they are very careful when they are reporting about Israel, about America, about UK. They are very careful about their own countries, but when they come to our country, report it as it is. And some of the reporters are so happy, they think they have achieved because they are being cheered in Western countries. They think it's very nice to come and report about your country negatively. This is the issue. That is the question we should be asking ourselves. The question of closing or not closing depends on the circumstance. You have to weigh between national interest and also the individual interests of media houses. The national interest at any given time will be weighed, and if it's necessary to close a media house so that you can serve the nation, of course you do it. You know that media played a critical role in 2007-2008 post-election violence, and that some media houses were indicted for the role they played. We are not going to wait until they are indicted. We have to take precautionary measures to ensure that we protect the country, and that is important that we do so. Unfortunately, I don't want to discuss about Justice Mwita, because when the chips are down, when the courts in Kikuyu were banned, a court order is not there to save the courts. When 2007 and 2008 violence happened, nobody looked for the Chief Justice that you swore in the president. It is the people who held offices like mine who are held responsible. So it's my duty first to take care of my country. It is easy. I can suffer a court order. I can pay for a court order and so forth, but I cannot pay for people's lives when they die. And I cannot return back the nation when it becomes a pariah state taken over by hooligans and gangs. So I would rather appear before a judge in a still working country and explain why I made a particular decision than to doubt myself and say I cannot make this decision, and then tomorrow there is no country. There is even no judge to explain to. Because when this country burns, Justice Mwita and myself will all be the same. We'll probably be meeting in border between Kenya and other countries looking to be refugees. And I don't want that situation. I want first to protect the country, then the judge can pontificate with very beautiful statements when there is a peaceful nation. The other issue is the question of how many police officers were injured. No, first of all, for people who lost their loved ones, let me say this. It does not matter. It does not matter the circumstance that anyone loses a relative. Even if your relative was a robber, even if your relative was attacked, it's still painful. It's still very painful. And therefore, we condole with all families that lost their loved ones yesterday. It does not matter if the investigation will show that some of them were trying to get into police armory, they wanted to steal guns, they wanted to do what? It is not their families that wanted to do so. Therefore, their families and their loved ones still feel the pain that everybody feels when you lose your loved one. And therefore, we want to say, we send our condolences to their families, and we want to say that we feel your pain. It's painful to lose a loved one, and we'll do everything, especially in cases where persons were innocent, to ensure that necessary investigations are done and justice is served in every situation. How many police officers were injured? There are 300 police officers who were injured, and about 100 civilians. So a total of 400 people were injured. And it is true that from yesterday's protest, there is a particular pattern, and again in particular constituencies where police stations are being targeted. And I suspect the banning of police stations was supposed to help the coup plotters make a statement that there is no country and that there is no authority. So that is why you see they want the guns and they want police uniform. And they want to show that the uniform is degraded so that there is no authority in the country. That is the entire mission of what happened yesterday. And therefore, as I said, we will take firm action to ensure that the nation is in safe hands. And I think with all those many remarks, unless IG, you just want to say one word? Yeah, just say one word. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Waziri. Maybe let me start by saying that I also join my Waziri in condoling with the families that lost their loved ones yesterday, during yesterday's fracas. And number two, I want to say that we appreciate our brave police officers who did a sterling job yesterday by ensuring our country remained secure, despite the many challenges that were there. I also want to wish them a quick recovery. There are over 300 police officers who are also injured, who got injuries yesterday, life-threatening injuries. I want to wish them well, and also state very, very clearly that we stand with them, we support them, and we appreciate the work that the men and women in uniform do. And finally, to the criminals who are involved in causing mayhem to our country, we are coming for you. And you must have your day in the court so that you can be able to answer to your criminal activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Asanteni sana. Awesome.